There was a time not that long ago when imposing 4x4s like the BMW X5 and Volvo XC90 behind me were known as gas guzzlers, and they became cause for concern with anyone with an environmental conscience. Well, these days even gas guzzlers have become greener. Yes, these plug-in hybrid versions of the BMW X5 and Volvo XC90 still run on gasoline, but rather than guzzling it, these ones can drive a considerable distance without taking so much as a sip. And that's thanks to electric motors and sizable batteries concealed beneath that handsome sculpted bodywork. Question is, which one is best? That's what we'll be finding out during this CarGurus UK twin test. But before we begin, please do remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and switch on notifications so that you'll be automatically informed whenever a new video goes live. Hybrid or no hybrid, people like large premium SUVs like these for their style and desirability. You'll make up your own mind whether you prefer the BMW's muscular brashness or the Volvo's sense of Scandinavian sophistication, but we would say that both cars have the required amount of visual impact. Style is only one part of the equation though, because large SUVs also need to dazzle as family cars. So let's start with the boot, and the first thing you'll notice is this split tailgate. This does make life easier when you're loading in heavy items, and it also doubles as a handy bench when you need to take off muddy wellies. In terms of space, there's 500 litres in here, which is pretty good, but bear in mind it is 150 litres less than you get in a non-hybrid BMW X5. And that's because all of the electric bits and bobs have to live somewhere, and that somewhere is underneath the boot floor. And when you fold the rear seats down, you get 1,720 litres of space, but the backrests do lie at a slight angle. And when the seats are used for people and not luggage or anything else, then those people are well catered for because, well, I'm only 5'4.5", so I'm probably not going to struggle. But even if you're over 6 foot, you will find that there is plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom. It's also comfy for carrying 3 in the back because both the middle seat and the cabin as a whole are wide, and there's enough space for your feet. It's a similar story here in the Volvo, although it's not quite as spacious, but the seats slide and recline so that you can maximise your comfort. And when you fold down the rear seats, they go flatter than in the BMW, leaving you with a perfectly level load bay. Now, this is where there's a much bigger difference between our two cars. First of all, the size. In the boot, we have got 640 litres as opposed to the 500 in the BMW. Now, although we don't have the split rear tailgate, what we do have, and that is my second point, 2 extra seats. You shouldn't bank on being able to carry half your rugby team in the XC90, as these 2 extra seats are a bit too tight for folk of that size. But children and not so big adults will be fine for short journeys. Now, it's important to note that you can get 7 seats on the X5. That's only if you choose the regular X5, not the plug-in hybrid. So if you want to have a plug-in hybrid and 7 seats, you'll have to pick the Volvo. Oh, some interesting noises going on in this car. Well, life in the front of the Volvo is pretty sweet. First of all, Volvo makes some of the most comfiest seats in the business, and there is no exception with the XC90. Plus, there is plenty of adjustment in the seat, and it's electric, which is brilliant. So you can spend quite a long time getting a comfortable driving position, and the steering wheel also has plenty of adjustment as well in terms of reach and rake. The minimalist interior design is very stylish and the quality of the materials is top notch, so the big Volvo also feels like an impressively sophisticated and classy car. Because of that minimalism, most of the functions are controlled through this 9-inch portrait touchscreen, which isn't as great as it sounds, and that's because a lot of the menu icons are small and fiddly, and because there's no separate controls for the aircon system, you need to find it through this touchscreen, and that can be a little more distracting to use while on the move than really it should be. The BMW's infotainment system is much better. Yes, it still has a touchscreen, however, it's far less distracting and easier to navigate your way through the menus if you use this rotary controller. And look, real life physical buttons for the aircon controls. Hoorah! The menus are logical, the graphics are sharp, and the responses are fast, making the system a joy to use from start to finish. If there's a better one anywhere in the car industry, we're yet to encounter it. BMW doesn't do too badly on the seat building stakes either. They're very, very comfy, and there is plenty of adjustment, electric again, just like the Volvo, so you should be able to find a very comfortable driving position. But where the BMW really sets itself apart is quality. As good as the Volvo is on that front, the BMW is just another step up again. The materials are denser and of a more uniformly high standard, while the assembly and finish is even more high grade. So that's how our interiors stack up, but which one of these two cars has the edge on the road? Which one should we drive first? The Volvo. Now, before we start on how our two cars feel to drive, let's look at some of the facts and figures. Both have four-wheel drive, both have an automatic gearbox, and although the BMW has a 3-litre 6-cylinder petrol engine and the Volvo only has a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, both have similar power outputs, and that's when you tally up the power produced by the electric motor and petrol engines combined. 394 horsepower for the BMW compared to 390 for the Volvo. Look at the official efficiency figures though, and you'll find that the Volvo actually has quite a big disadvantage. Average fuel consumption is given at up to 104 miles per gallon compared to a figure of 235 miles per gallon for the BMW. Of course, both figures are comparatively useless in the real world because the MPG you actually end up getting will depend on how often you call upon the petrol engine. Basically, the more you can drive on electric-only power, the better you'll do. And this is where the BMW has a slight advantage too, because it can go 54 miles on its electric-only power, whereas the Volvo can do just 30 miles. And that means the BMW is more likely to drive more on its battery power alone. There's a slight caveat to mention here, in that the Volvo is just about to introduce an upgraded battery and motor package to the XC90 that will greatly increase its electric-only range, putting it much closer to the BMW's, as well as adding another 65 horsepower. These cars are due to arrive in January 2022, so if you buy a new XC90 from stock right now, it'll have the older powertrain, but if you were to factory order an XC90 today, it'll be the new and improved version that you get. So that's the numbers taken care of, but how does the car actually feel? Well, it feels great. There's an overall impression of comfort and relaxation. For example, the standard suspension does a very presentable job of smoothing out even the roughest of road surfaces, and the eager performance and smooth automatic transmission help to make your progress feel effortless. Chuck in the car's excellent suppression of wind and road noise and things are even more relaxed. Most of the time you can detect when the petrol engine chimes in to help out, but it's still impressively smooth and quiet considering how much work it has to do in lugging the XC90's enormous body around. Tackle a few corners in the BMW and you'll instantly notice a difference in its character from the Volvo. This is a car that feels pointier, more assured, more alert and more eager to change direction. Granted, you probably won't forget that you're in an enormous 2.5-ton SUV, but even so, the X5 turns way more sharply than anything this big and heavy has any right to. What's perhaps even more impressive is that it combines this agility with a level of ride comfort which is on a par with the Volvos, and it does this with its sophisticated air suspension. Not only that, it manages to suppress wind and road noise to such a level that it's actually quieter than the Volvo, and therefore it is a more relaxing and quieter car to drive. In terms of outright pace, there's very little in it between the two cars, which is no great surprise when you consider the similarity in power. The BMW does feel a fraction quicker to respond to a prod of the accelerator pedal though, which helps add to the feeling of dynamism. And although it's not the most satisfying, soul-stirring six-cylinder growl you'll ever listen to, the X5's engine does sound a wee bit sweeter than the Volvo's when you call for maximum acceleration. So which one of these cars should you spend your hard-earned cash on? Well, that kind of depends on what you want. If you simply must have 7 seats, but you also simply must have a plug-in hybrid drivetrain, then it simply has to be the Volvo. However, if 5 seats will suffice and you'd prefer a car with a more polished driving experience and a plusher interior, then we'd point you towards the BMW. Either way, both of these are truly fantastic cars and certainly not the gas guzzlers that some expect them to be. Which one would you pick? We'd love to know what you think about the XC90 and X5, so please let us know in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe as well. And if you fancy actually buying one of these cars, or any car for that matter, visit cargurus.co.uk to find lots of great deals from top-rated dealers.